So Jochen asked me, so I'm the local host, and thanks for coming to Berlin, and thanks for, I hope you enjoy the scenery, but Jochen asked me to, I have 5 minutes to talk a little bit. Yeah, I'm a professor, so 5 minutes is, for us, it's like about 20. So talk a little bit first about the location. So this hall is actually, of course, it's a historical landmark. It's the Peter Behrens Halle, and it's rather old. So I have a couple of pictures from back in the days that I brought. So this was during construction in 1912. So half of the thing was up. So that's how old it is. It's very famous among architects. Are there any architects here? Yeah, you know Peter Behrens. You must, right? So he was actually the first real industrial designer. So again, right, so something that our AEC industry was driving, right? So he was not only designing the houses of AEC, of AEG, but he was also doing the teapots, right, and things like that. And so he's a very famous architect, and if you look out here on the area, you see, because he actually made that shift from like the ornaments that were back in the buildings. So if you look at the entrance gate, this still stands all the way down. So this was the entrance gate of the AEG factory. You see, this is how they built factories before Peter Behrens, right? And then he brought the cleanliness in. He took all the ornaments out. You see, there's still the transition at some buildings here, right? And he was actually then the grandfather of the Bauhaus. So the industry was driving the consumer stuff, right? And so I brought you a couple of other pictures. So that's how it looked like when it was done here. This was inside, right? And this was how they put up the cranes back in 1912, right? So, and we here in Berlin, this is our testing laboratory. The civil engineers of the TU Berlin are all here, all our students. We educate around more than 1,000 students here, right? And we are really lucky to have such a great hall. We can do everything in here. Like, it's a lot of space from organizing hackathons. On Wednesday we fly actually Zeppelin drones here, right? I'm dreaming from making this a huge AR VR lab. I think we can inspect the whole bridge in here, right? But also, you know, we might get some big robots in here as well, maybe one day, right? But today is the hackathon, so I hope you enjoy the scenery. It might get a little bit hot, but you can also go outside, but that's unavoidable, unfortunately. But it's a little bit of history about the thing. Then Jochen asked me not only to introduce the venue, but also say a little bit about what we do here. So some key stats about this. So it was extended at a certain time. Now it's 180 meters long and 33 meters wide and 24 meters high. Altogether, it's 5,500 square meters, and this is about one European football field, right? So for the Americans here, we play football with the feet. So yeah, that might be also some use, right? If you take everything out, we can have a whole football match in here. But a little bit about us. So I'm professor since 2 years here. I have the really cool chance to start a completely new department from scratch. We call it Civil Systems Engineering Department. And it's not like about robotics so much, about technology, but it's a systems engineering is really looking at how the engineers of the future will design our future cities, right? That's what, for me, systems engineering means, looking at design and engineering. And this is kind of a problem that I see, that our cities stop working. I will not say too much, you all know that, right? And we need to come up with ways. This is very interesting, something that troubles me a lot. So the normal engineering project that we have in our cities takes like 20 years. So this is a dike project in the Netherlands, right? So if we think we need 20 years to reinforce all our dikes all over the world, right, we can assume what's going to happen. So being a father of 3 kids, that really worries me. And you know, this is a fun picture I took in Lausanne the other day. But yeah, it's going to look different. And so if we don't decrease the time that we need to design and engineer these things and decrease them significantly, and all our almost all our city projects take that long, then we have a problem, right? And I, of course, strongly believe that we can do a lot with technology to improve this, right? And so we set up a completely new teaching and research program to address these challenges and how thinking and maybe also reinventing how engineers, I like to call them city engineers, right, can significantly quicker design and redesign our cities. And so that's pretty much the research question we have. And we see, like from our philosophy that we set up all our research and teaching, we see that two really mind shifts need to happen in how we engineer things. And one mind shift has a lot to do with data, right? So we have a data challenge here. This is a map of the US around 1820. There's nothing here. We did not know anything here, right? So they wanted to build railways through that, right? So what did they needed to do? Measure for years, right? So that's when all these, like we Europeans like these cowboy stories, right? The cowboys go and, you know, these are all land surveyors, right, pretty much. And they had to survey all this. And then only they could build. And so we still have, like, I had a surveying class, so I was out in the field with the surveying instruments, backpack with beers with my friends, and had to survey something, right, for 2 days. That is, you know, now we know. But we need to make that mind shift, right? And so I say the mind shift means that this is like some kind of asset management software, right? And this is all data available. So the mind shift is, you know, now when we start a new engineering project, how do we start? We go to Google instead of, you know, trying to go out in the field and looking what's there or something, right? And making use of the available data. But that's quite a mind shift that needs to happen still. And the second mind shift we work on is kind of how we actually design things. So this is like an old drawing, right? So we first draw the shape, we first design the shape, and then we think about the logic behind it, right? And that's how all engineers work today. And then, of course, we do this now in 3D, right? But no different. We draw the shapes in our BIM applications and fancy stuff in 3D, and we see it better, right? But only after we drew the shapes, we think about the logic. And I think to significantly increase the speed, we need to also make this shift from, you know, in how we approach these designs, from spending a lot more time in thinking about the logic first. So we have a Dynamo workshop here, right? So that's what Dynamo is about, right? Spending a lot of time here, and then only like after we spend a lot of time about what's the logic behind what we need to design and engineer, we start engineering shapes and creating the embodiment, as a systems engineer would say, right? And so in all our research and teaching, we try to work on instilling this mind shift in our students, but also in doing like top-notch research, right, that helps to get to this new way of working. And so what we do basically in a nutshell, and then I stop. Where's Jochen? Gone. So we focus on modeling complex civil systems, right? And when you have good models of civil systems, we can do really good data engineering, making use of all the data that's available to learn more about what's there, but also how the future could look like. And we can simulate systems. So if we have the logic built, and the model, I mean creating the logic, also the systematic models, we can simulate one model from a lot of different perspectives. The data, of course, integrates. These go back and forth. Every simulation creates big data. Big data drives our stochastic simulations, right? And all of this needs to lead to new creative collaborative design projects. So there was a little short introduction of first this hall and what we're working here at the TU Berlin at the Civil Systems Department. And as I said, this is a great event, hackathon. We need to be all creative, innovative, moving things forward, because, you know, we as the AEC, and not as a technology industry, but we as AEC people, I'm convinced of this, have to solve the problems of our societies, right? We make the energy that makes this robot 15 minutes walk, right? Without our systems, we wouldn't even have that energy, right? We can put all the stuff in the blockchain, right? And only realize in 6 years that it's too, that costs too much energy and all the stuff is gone, right? Because we are not able to create the sustainable energy systems, right? So I think I would love to see a lot of the spirit at this hackathon and you coming up with creative solutions that can solve some of these things. And yeah, I'm gonna be around. Let's talk. Let's be innovative. Let's hack, right? Thank you.